We are down to the Fanatic Final Four in the APFL Playoffs, the FSA Redraft World Championship, and the FSA Grey Cup. We're going to recap all of week 15 from all three tournaments, and we still have four more general managers from the APFL that need to let us know their 2024 intentions. All of this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow Fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast, sponsored by Nature Coast Tailgating Apparel, the official apparel of the FSA. Trevor out there. Trevor, how are you? Good evening, my friend. Sorry about the intro. That was a mouthful, and I still probably didn't get the two most important things that we're going to talk about, so I'm going to bring them up now. I'm hoping shortly to have a guest on for you all who is going to come in and talk a little bit about another great fantasy football league that the members of the FSA could join. But also something I did not have in the title tonight, we are going to talk about APFL dispersal drafts a little bit. I appreciate all of the guys that came on at 7:30 for that discussion. Great 1 hour long conversation about that and how we are going to add that to the rules. Could probably talk about it for another hour here on the show, but we're going to give you the Cliff Notes version of it as we get towards the end of the show, because that's not why you all are here. You all want to know what happened in week 15. So, and I just got the confirmation that our guest will be jumping on shortly. So let's talk about the divisional round on the AFC side. The Buffalo Mafia defeated the Denver Mustangs 116-84 to move on to the conference finals. And on the other side of the bracket, the Cleveland Dogs suffered their first loss of the season at the hands of last year's AFC champion, the Miami Barracudas. Final score there was 92-81. That means we are set for an AFC East matchup for the AFC Championship. I swore I took that comment away. How'd you get back up there, Trevor? So we have the Buffalo Mafia and the Miami Barracudas playing for the AFC Championship. And then on the NFC side, it's going to be a lot of transferring transitions tonight with this camera. On the NFC side, the Washington Hogs continue to surprise. They got a 123-67 point win over the Carolina Power Claws. The Hogs will face the number one seeded Green Bay Cheeseheads after the Cheeseheads beat the LA Bighorns. Final score there was 111-95. There is your NFC Championship matchup. So we had two more teams eliminated from each side, from the AFC and NFC side, allowing us to get a little bit more clarity on what it looks like for the 2024 rookie draft. So I'm going to bring up the AFC first, the two teams that got added on there. And remember, we use potential points as the order for this. Means Cleveland ends up with the number 13 pick and Denver ends up with the number 14 pick. There is your draft order. I'm going to let it come back across the screen one more time. Yep, second year that Miami makes the AFC title game, and a new general manager this year as well. So last year it was managed by the Orlando group, a trio of general managers. This year Matt Brown has the ownership of that team. They're pretty awesome to see him go 2 years in a row. So let's look at what the NFC draft order looks like now. Added onto that list was the Power Claws and the Bighorns. So the Power Claws now have the 13th pick and the Bighorns have the 14th pick. And I'll let that roll through one more time before we move on and start talking about the redraft and the Grey Cup. One more time all the way through. Merry Christmas to everybody while we're letting it go across the screen one more time. Since we will not be back on until 2 days after Christmas, want to make sure that we say Merry Christmas to everybody that was out there. All right, let's get into these redraft games. So the Southwest Scorpions regional champion Panthers will face the number 1 seeded Black Dragons regional champion Lunatics after the Panthers beat the Louisville Sluggers 139-137. And then after the Banshees regional champion Average Joes knocked off the Hydras regional champion Bearcats. Bearcats was also a shared co-champion last year in the FSA World Cup. That final score there was 160-140. The Average Joes will now face the Gold Dragons regional champion, the Peach State Who Daddies. I'll let you sit there and look at that for just a second. Let me get that scroll off the bottom of the screen so that's not bothering you all anymore. And then other 3 teams are first-year contenders in championship week. They absolutely are. Thank you, Kevin, for pointing that out. I did promise Damian that I was going to have that information for him this week, and I sure did forget to pull that out. So thank you for letting us know that. Let's talk about the Grey Cup. We're just online with Naughty Dog's general manager, Sean, just a few minutes ago. And then we also had the Ohio River Monsters, Matt Furby, on with us as well. Both of them are now playing in the Final Four of the Grey Cup. Naughty Dogs will face Rum Runners after beating Jerry Jones 209-161. No, not that Jerry Jones. And then on the other side, like we just mentioned, the Ohio River Monsters will face the Bad Omens after the Bad Omens beat Jamie 127-113. And in all reality, that is all we've got scripted for tonight and all we have graphics for. So, yep, Slats, possibly. He's definitely got one of my 2 votes right now for Rookie of the Year. It's a very good possibility that we ended up with co-rookie of the year like we did a couple of years ago. It just depends on what the voting is going to look like. And it definitely depends, I think, on how far he goes into these playoffs if he continues to keep on moving forward. So the other thing that I mentioned at the top of the show, before we get into hopefully our guest showing up here shortly, and we'll take up some airtime as we're talking about the dispersal draft for the APFL. We have 4 general managers who have still not committed to the 2024 season. They are the Jacksonville Wildcats, the Indianapolis Stallions, the Las Vegas Marauders, and the Washington Hogs. I am pretty sure that the Marauders and Hogs will be back. Just need to reach out to them on a more personal level. I feel like it seems like they're not checking Discord enough to know that announcement's been out there. But I have been in contact with both Indianapolis and Jacksonville, which is what brought the discussion tonight online starting at 7:30 with the guys that were on there. Again, thank you for everybody who did come out for that. So what we're looking into doing, and it's been brought up quite a few times by a couple of different people in the league, most importantly, Matt Furby, liking to tell me all the time this is what we should be doing. Eric says AFC South teams get sick of getting beaten by the Taurus. Very good possibility. The thought process has been maybe we need to do a dispersal draft as we lose people. And, I wish I had thought of this or understood the idea a little bit more as we moved from year 1 to year 2, as we had 2 teams that fell off, one of them being Jacksonville and the other one being Miami. What we were able to do, though, was find 2 general managers that just fell in on those teams. I will say, knowing this person on a personal level, Jacksonville was not as happy with the team that he got because he thought he was going to end up with Miami, but it was kind of a first come, first serve, and Matt Brown jumped on Miami Barracudas instead. But it looks like, for all intent and purposes, we are probably going to lose the Indianapolis Stallions this year. So that's prompted the meeting of the minds tonight. No, that's going to be one thing that I'm going to throw into the rules too. I've been thinking about that a whole lot as well. I don't think that's fair because then you have the opportunity to play against yourself, and then you're just padding your pockets, which isn't a bad thing if it's you that happens to. So the dispersal draft talk happened tonight, and I think what we're going to use as a catalyst for a dispersal draft in a given year will be, I see you out there. Give me just a second to talk a little bit more, and then I'm going to bring you in, all right? Cool. And maybe you have an opinion on this, so listen, because you've done some crazy leagues, so dispersal drafts is probably not foreign to you. So if the catalyst is going to be if any team leaves the APFL, we are going to open it up to both conferences, regardless of where that team leaves, for a dispersal draft. Now, if only one team needs to be replaced, then we're going to treat it as an orphan team. And when I say that is, let's say, we'll use a real world example. Let's say the Indianapolis Stallions decide that they're going to leave. That is our catalyst now. We say we're going to open up both conferences to a dispersal draft. Anybody who wants to throw their team in there can. And when I say throw their team into that dispersal draft, it's your entire team, including your draft picks for the next season. It is not a partial dispersal. The entire team must go in. So we are going to work through what those deadlines are going to look like. So some of the discussion that we had tonight was that's got to happen sooner than later so we can still open up normal operations on the 1st of March, which is when we usually have the APFL start. So what we're looking at is sometime between our Super Bowl, which is in 2 weeks, and the period before we opened it up for everybody to pay for their league membership for the APFL, which is 1 March. So basically 2 weeks from now, which I think puts us, actually, we're getting ready to go into week 16. So we have 16, 17, and 18 to still play through. I think we all discussed tonight, usually that last season of the NFL is everybody plays on Sunday. So I believe that's going to be the 7th of January. So right after the NFL season ends until we are paying for the 2024 season 1 March, that is going to be the time period where the teams that are going to be part of the dispersal will say, yes, I want to be eligible for that. They have to pay their money before anybody else would. The dispersal draft would happen, and then normal operations of the league would begin on 1 March. If you have any questions, ask them now. If you are watching this show later, ask us on Discord whatever questions that you might have. Need to get the answer from those final 4 teams. We did say that we were giving everybody until the 31st of December to make that decision. I will probably lean on people a little bit more with 11 days left to see what their intentions are for 2024. That will probably help us better understand what this dispersal thing is going to look like. But again, the hot things to know is the catalyst will be anytime we lose a team out of the APFL. We will open it up to both sides. Any teams that want to throw in can. If it ends up only being one team, we will treat it as an orphan instead. Anybody who's going to participate in the dispersal draft must have their pay in soon, and then we will have that dispersal draft, and the payment and dispersal draft happen before normal league operations will begin on 1 March. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. I'm going to bring in David the Bromy, the commissioner of the TCAA right now. I don't know if he's still there. I'm looking at a ceiling fan. Bromy, if you're out there, you're on mute, so we don't know if you're actually there or not. We'll fill a couple minutes of airtime here while we're waiting for you to come back. Does anybody have any – there he is. He's coming back. Does anybody have any questions about the dispersal? We're going to talk to David here for a few. And then I'm going to finish up the show talking about what the schedule looks like for this week for the NFL, because it is a crazy schedule, especially with Christmas being on Monday. You're still on mute. Can you take yourself off of mute? Oh, there you go. You know how to do this. You do
I should be good now. The youngest.
Put my headphones on so I can hear you. I can't hear you over this Santa hat. What's up, man? Talk to me.
No, not much, man. My son was trying to get into his room, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm getting ready to go on talk football." So I had to mute myself so I can chat to him, and then kick him out of his room.
Kevin is right. Orphan will have to be filled prior to the draft. Absolutely true. Hey, so we brought the commissioner of the TCAA on because I wanted him to tell everybody a little bit about his league. He had a great conversation with you late last week. And got to learn a little bit more about the TCAA. I know you actually threw out there on our football classifieds that you had a spot available for the league going into 2023. And it wasn't really until you and I talked that I really remembered, oh, crap, I remember you putting that out there. The link was there. So I went in. I literally spent 2 days digging through every link that is on your website, watching your last 10 broadcasts that you've had on YouTube. Like, I did my due diligence. I wanted to go out and learn what the TCAA is. So everybody else doesn't have to do the same thing that I did. Why don't you tell everybody about the TCAA?
Yeah. So, some people are in some of these other leagues that are like college formatted, where You use the players for their first 4 or 5 years, just like a college student would be. What we do is a little of the same concept, except that we don't limit the players' years. So you still have an Aaron Rodgers, an Alvin Kamara. I'm trying to think of everyone who in these other college leagues would have been dropped out by now after like their fifth or sixth season in the league in the NFL. And so what we do is we do everything college style still. It's a lot of it is based off of the NCAA 14, 2009 Xbox video game, for if anybody is familiar with playing the college football games off of the Xbox. It's kind of where we got inspirations on certain things to do, how to do the league. But the crux of the whole thing is there's no trading. There's, recruiting during the season, during the off season. There's JUCO pickups that we only do a couple times in the year to kind of bolster the roster. But at the end of the day, when week one kicks off, your roster is roughly 90% set and ready to go. But we every player is available. There is no limiting the players. Just that once they graduate, they fall into the recruiting pool, and then you recruit against the rest of your opponents in your conference, the rest of your conference foes, to get those players back, to get a Mahomes, to get a Derrick Henry, to get a Tyreek Hill, who is a battle going on in some conferences right now because the way how many seasons he's been in the league, he's currently a high school senior trying to be recruited. So that's the way we do our league, and we do rankings. I try to do a weekly show at times, not always. When it gets to this time of the year for me, I'm in retail, so it's a lot harder for me to get time. Normally I work on a Wednesday night, so I'm not able to join these shows. And I normally do my league show on Wednesday nights if I am available on Wednesday nights. So that's pretty much kind of the concept, just that we use scholarships to kind of limit the rosters. Like I said, we do recruiting. I guess the biggest thing we do is recruiting. That way you can add to your team the next year. There's a few people in this family of presidents and owners who are in this league. I got people outside of this one that are from other like college families. For those who are familiar with like NCFF, CFFB, those leagues, they're in the same kind of a thing. So
Kevin's comment was last year he had a sophomore Tom Brady on his team. Yeah. All right. So because I had the pleasure of being able to sit down with you and ask you a bunch of questions, I'm going to ask probably some of those same questions again because to enlighten some more people that are out there. Number of teams that are currently in the TCAA.
Currently we're at 36. We expanded from 30 to 36 2 years ago, I want to say. I feel like the latest conference, the Mountain Six, joined 2 years ago when I had just a massive amount wanted to join the league, and I had a couple of people who wanted to return to the league, including the original commissioner, some other people who wanted to rejoin in. So I had so many people interested, I had to create a new conference to get them in. So we're sitting at 36 right now. I mean, there's opportunity to expand. I don't know. I would need enough people after any openings to even think about doing it again. But there's, never say never, but never know.
Well, we still got 5 people that are on watching us right now. So you're one team away from having a whole brand new conference. There you go. So good question from Eric is, what is the buy-in? Eric, you're going to be super surprised. As detailed as this league is, it will not hurt your wallet. How much is it to get in, Bromy?
No. So it is $30 to buy in, and we were a free league for, I would say, maybe the first 3 to 4 seasons, maybe. The original commish, he did all his leagues free. They were very, very local to our East Tennessee region of people who he knew. And so he didn't want to do money leagues. And it came to the point when I took the league over fully, like after like 2 or 3 seasons. I was always helping out, but I want to say around like season 3, he kind of bailed, and I jumped in, took over all 3 leagues we were in, but I dismantled the other 2 because this was the one that I had the most, part of in the beginning and enjoy it. So I kept this one. Um, I would say maybe a year or two later, I made it a money league at $20, and then we raised it up to $30, and that's probably going to be um, our max, because I've had some players who have been in the league from the beginning say that they wouldn't want to go over $30, um, which is fine by me. I don't want to ever price people out, but I also want to at least keep it low enough for people to be interested in it for at least a season, get an idea of what it is, and if they bail, I guess it's only $30 to them. And it's not like $100 league or a $50 league. It's like a scratch off ticket. You either win or you lose, kind of a thing. And
so
then, you stay
when
in
they're
and you
paying
stay out.
when they're paying their $30, tell them what they're getting. So the one thing I wanted you to tell everybody is 36 teams. So you break this up into, how's the breakdown?
Yeah. Let me pull up the current payout structures that we've got going on, because I have it all. I got my laptop up here too to make things easier for me. So the payouts for this season, MLFE is $159.90. And not even with the stupid, even being the early bird. So 36 schools total. One of the things I do, which is different, I could bring out the full breakdown if I find that page again on the full breakdown of how it all gets done. But let me see. All right, so here it is. So it's $30 to join into the league. I broke that down of like what the actual payment is for the league out of the $30. So $3.88 roughly. I don't think my math is updated here because I still think I showed like the $139.99 as the season
And then they raise the
for
prices.
it. So I'd have to double check that math. Yeah, when they raise the prices, so that might be a little off. Might be like $4 goes to the league cost, and the rest of the pot goes to it. So let's call it $25 out of your $30 goes into the payout pot. Roughly, I'd have to relook at that math. I don't think that's right on my website anymore after they changed everything this past season. I'm trying to see if I can find the breakdown here. But one of the things we do is, like right now, I had 36 schools, $30, $1,000.70, $1,070.20 is paid out. I don't take any kind of fees for it. This is all goes right back out. I mean, I guess you could say I get 10 cents. What are you doing, buddy? Okay. Let's not be too loud though. Okay. Sorry. And so one of the things we do is we take that prize money in there. The overall winner of the league, he gets $310. I don't know how much of that's being picked up or not here. The overall winner, he can get $310 for the national title. $70 if you win one of the big bowl games, where we have 4 total. 2 of them are playoff games, 2 of them are non-playoff games. So that's $70 in those. $30 if you win your conference. $30 if you play in one of our non-big time bowl games, if you weren't like in the top 8 ranked. It's unlimited combined. So you can win if you won the national title, you won your big first bowl game, you won your conference. I mean, you can win $400. Okay. So, minus out your payout. But what we do also is, for any time someone joins the league and they dip out at any, it's my earbud holder, buddy. Anytime someone pays for the league to join during the season, and then we started any kind of, all right, come on, buddy. Anytime somebody, if they dip out of the league after any kind of off-season things start. So we did part-time recruiting. If you've done anything involving the roster where you've dropped players or you've moved around scholarships, depending on how you leave the league, you don't get refunded, or you might get refunded. Some people will say just keep it and use it to bring somebody else in, but that's not what we do or I do. I take that money and that becomes something that other teams or schools, in our case, use for like a payout at the end of the season to keep people interested. So if you didn't make a bowl game You didn't make our recruiting bowl because you weren't one of the worst teams, but you were active. You're playing in a shootout, as I like to call it, the last 4 weeks of the season, where if you score the most, you won your league fee for the next season. So that way, people still have something to play for when they're down and out and got nothing to really, like, no bowl games, nothing special for them. At least that, hey, if I can at least be one of the top scoring schools the rest of the season, I can at least have next year's league's fee paid. And for this season, I've got 5 fees up for grabs out of roughly, I want to say there's about 10 to 12 schools that aren't in a bowl game. So roughly half of them are fighting to play next year and not have to pay for it.
Okay. So we know what the finish line is. Let's backtrack to the beginning of this. So 36 teams. How are those 36 teams broken up?
It broke up a little bit. What'd you say?
Well, how are those 36 teams broken up as far as your conferences and stuff like that go?
Okay. 6 schools in a conference. So we got 5 total conferences, or 6 total conferences with 6 schools in them. We kept it like standard, your ACC, instead of a Big 10 or Big 12, it's the Big 6, Big East, which they don't even exist anymore. No. SEC, the Mountain 6, the Pac 6, which is pretty close to what they are now. You can see in the Pac 12. So, we kind of guessed right on that one. But yeah, so it's 6 schools per conference, and each conference is its own copy. So when you're playing outside of your conference, you have the chance of playing a copy.
From the same players. So the next question probably for everybody is, since you said that there was no trading throughout the year, what are the roster sizes and what are your starting lineup sizes? And then I think it's a good time to let everybody know that you also play IDP in this league.
Yeah, so we do IDP. Your starting active roster is 40 players. And that includes, it doesn't include anybody on the IR. It doesn't include any of your redshirt players. So these are the players that you're going to have for your entire season. You can make room. You want to sometimes leave room because, like I said, we do pickups during the season. 4 total pickups can be done if you have roster room because of, the buys and the schedules are released for, your roster is already somewhat set from the year prior. So, and then injuries and stuff like that. So we created a way to add players during the season to kind of make up for, sometimes you can have 4 quarterbacks all get hurt. It's kind of like how this season is in the NFL, where half the rosters are using backups.
Yeah.
So 40 players on the active roster. Overall, 65 total players on your roster. So that includes your redshirted players, your players on your IR, and stuff like that.
Do you anticipate losing anybody? Do you have any rumors that you might lose anybody where we could fit some FSA people in possibly?
I would say normally our turnover is roughly averages around 4 to 6 every season, I would say. I haven't heard from anybody. I have one person so far message me that they don't know if they'll be back yet for next season. I haven't put any of those waiver fields out there yet to see where we're at, because we do our bowl season, which we're in the middle of now. Like we got our Big 4 matchups this week. Next week's the national title and stuff like that. And then we do our final recruiting season during the wild card of the NFL. So that way people are still paying attention to the league. Yep. Then after that's done and everyone knows who they got in their recruiting phase, I give like a deadline of the end of January. Hey, you've got 3 weeks, pretty much 2 weeks. Are you in or are you out? And paying for the next season. And so then I know usually by September or February 1st who's in, who's out. If it's somebody, and full transparency, this is the way I operate on it. If it's somebody who's been in the league for years and they're like, hey, I might need some more time, I hold their spot. I don't take their team away from them. They've been in the league for multiple years. I know who they are. Majority of the time, I met them. I haven't met everybody in the league because, like I said, we've gone away from this East Tennessee little clientele that we have. But people who have been in the league for who have established themselves, I give them an extra like month or two. I don't really worry about them. But I know one so far has told me he's not sure he'll need time, and he's one who's been in the league the last couple of years. So and he's got a friend in the league who's been in the league longer than him. So I'd give him a little bit of time to think about it. If I wouldn't rush him right away, but he knows his clock is ticking on him. But I would say usually the turnover is around 4 to 6.
Okay. So I got one more question for you, broken up into 2 parts. Have you thought about doing any expansion inside the conferences now to expand beyond the 6 teams? And if you had 6 players from the FSA that all said, hey, Bromy, I would like to join the TCAA, would you open up another whole conference?
Let's see, first one, I know we talked about it last week about adding players into the conference. I'm still not sure about that yet, just because I'd have to figure out how we would break down keepers of the roster and who they would let go and stuff like that, and how we would all work that out. But if we didn't do that and we had 6 from the FSA on top of any other holes I'd have to fill, and we get those filled with no issues, I could look into expanding, because then we would have, that
exactly
group of schools or openings counted for.
Yep.
Kind of like what happened when we expanded last time. I only think I had like 3 openings in the beginning of that, and I had 9 people, 10 people interested in joining the league. And so that's why we expanded, because I was like, you know what? I have people who wanted to come back in anyway. Let's do it. How do I figure it out? And it wasn't too hard. I got it still all written out, how I did the expansion, how we all worked it. It took a little time on my end to do it, to tag players, what class level they are, and make sure whoever were high school seniors still, so that way recruiting had something going on. And like I said, that conference now is the Mountain Six, and this is their 3rd season, so they have their whole crap account is fresh.
So in the format that you're playing in right now, probably easier to expand a whole entire conference versus trying to expand inside of a conference.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Just because, so roster-wise, like I said, we have 40 active players, 65 total overall, which not everybody does. And like I said, a lot of people keep space open on their active roster. Of that 40, you have 12 total starters, where you've got your quarterback, a running back, at least 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex. Right. A flex for either a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end additionally. All right, buddy, come on. You got your kicker, and then defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker, cornerback, and safety. Starting next season, though, we are going to be adding flex positions into the defense. Okay. At this moment, I don't see myself adjusting the active roster. I kind of want to see what that'll look like without adjusting the active roster from the 40. If people adjust the way they keep any of the players. So you'll have a flex position between your defensive line, your defensive end and linebacker, and then another flex out of another cornerback or safety, kind of a thing. So one from each of those 2 positions in that grouping is how we're going to do it for next season.
Okay. Man, I appreciate you coming on. Stick with me if you want. I'm going to do the last little bit of my show here and then wrap it up. So one of the things that I always like to do at the end of the show is I always like to talk about what that NFL's schedule looks like for the upcoming week. So we're going into NFL Week 16. So Thursday night football, we've got the New Orleans Saints versus the LA Rams. They're did I say at LA already? They're going to be at LA. Rams are favored by 4 points right now. And despite that, I like this hat better than my LA hat. So I am going with the Saints for Thursday night. I'm pretty sure that we have a couple of fans out there that would appreciate it. Plus, I just like this hat way more than the LA Rams hat. So that will be Thursday night. Then on Saturday, we have 2 games. First one is Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. That one will be at 4:30. The next game will be Buffalo at LA Chargers. That's at 8 o'clock. We have 10 games on Sunday. That will end with the Sunday night game between New England in Denver that will be played in Denver. And then on Christmas Day, on Monday, we have 3 games. We got Vegas at Kansas City at 1. We got the Giants at Philadelphia at 4:30, and then Baltimore at San Francisco at 8:15. That should be a really, really good game. I almost feel like some people think that could be a precursor to the Super Bowl right there. So it should be a very, very good game. Matt, I saw that you came in a little late. Hopefully you're still sitting there watching this. Again, Bromy, thanks for coming on, man. I'm going to do one more quick rundown of everything that we went over the show. We're down to the Final Four in the APFL, the FSA World Championship, and in the Grey Cup. We got 2 more teams added to the draft order for both the AFC and the NFC. And we discussed the Final Four teams that need to come up on the net on the APFL, so we know what your intentions are for 2024. And we discussed the dispersal draft. If you weren't here for the dispersal draft portion of it and you're coming in late, make sure you go back and watch the show. I wish I could timestamp it, tell you exactly when we started talking about it, but I'm sure you'll figure it out and you'll be able to watch it. One thing I need from you, if you'll do for me, because you are a part of the Discord, throw a message up in the community channel for anybody who might be interested in checking out your league. Send a link over to your MFL page. That way they can take a look at it and do like I did and get a little bit more detail than what we went over tonight.
Yeah, that's no problem. Definitely anybody, I'll post that link on there, and anybody that's got any questions, anything, holler. Hit me up on Discord. I'll answer anything. One of the things that I've always done as the commissioner is I'm 24/7. If I get a message, I have people, I have some people over in the UK, I have people over the West Coast. You message me, I might see it at 2 o'clock in the morning my time, 4 o'clock in the morning my time. I'm going to respond right then, because if I don't, I'll forget. Imagine doing that. And we used to do that back in the day, texting. So imagine how that would go. And I told everybody, I warned them. I said, I'm going to text you when I see it, because if I don't respond, I may not. And that answer is going to be right then and there. So if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, sorry, be ready for it, because that's when I remember to answer you. But everyone pretty much turns their notifications off on Slack anyway, I think, through the night when they're sleeping. So they usually just get it in the morning anyway. But anybody's got any questions, holler, let me know. And I'll be able to do whatever to help you guys out, get anything, how's it going. So
all right,
to learn more about the league.
So our next broadcast is going to be next Wednesday on the 27th at our regularly scheduled time, 8:30 p.m. East Coast time. I got to thank Mondo and the boys from the Recast, the official music of the FSA, and Brandon Valinka from Nature Coast Apparel, the official apparel of the FSA. Ross Norris out there saying howdy, howdy, howdy. Hey, Ross, how are you? And I appreciate that, Matt. It is pretty sweet. I was the last one to put it on today. The rest of the family had it on. Misty found this somewhere online, and I'm so glad she did. It annoyed the hell out of the in-laws while we were there visiting with all of us wearing matching sweaters, so it was awesome. Thank you again, Bromy, for coming on. Thank you for watching the Fanatically Real broadcast. We'll be back next week. If you got any questions about anything, hit us up on Discord, and we will see you next week. Everybody have a great night.
Happy holidays, everybody.